Welcome. Our names are Tyler Gamble, Kyrstin Geloso, Kelly Gipson, Stephen Glass, Joshua Stokem, Nick Kaikini, and we are Team 3. This is a presentation we created from our findings of MARAD and information we learned from this course. Here are some of the topics we're going to discuss further into our presentation to evaluate how MARAD operates and relates to business logistics. Ships and shipping, shipbuilding, port and vessel operations, national security, environment, and safety. MARAD is the agency within the U.S. Department of Transportation dealing with the waterborne transportation. Its program promotes the use of waterborne transportation and its seamless integration with other segments of the transportation system and the viability of the U.S. merchant marine. It administers tasks into office to control each part of its mission. Each office focuses directly to its job to sustain less problems or detours in finalizing each project. It designates various tasks to the Office of Security, Environment, and Safety to enforce and promote proper international and domestic maritime operations and regulations. It works in many areas involving ships and shipping, shipbuilding, port operations, vessel operations, national security, environment, and safety. In this presentation, we will explain the functions of MARAD and how it relates to business logistics.
One of the main jobs of the Maritime Administration is its maintenance and control of the National Defense Reserve Fleet. This serves as a reserve fleet of cargo ships in case of emergency such as war, natural disaster, etc. This falls under the department's responsibility of upholding strategic sea lift. Strategic Sea Lift is a program that provides commercial and government-owned shipping capability in times of national emergency to meet the Department of Defense's strategic sea lift requirements. So in times such as Hurricane Katrina, other emergency aid and other supplies can be shipped in. The most memorable utilization of strategic sea lift was during World War II. The U.S. mobilized its national resources to quickly produce thousands of cargo vessels in order to carry these troops and supplies. It was estimated that over 200,000 mariners served in the merchant marine throughout World War II, which was provided by the Maritime Administration. MARAD also provides commercial and cargo sea lift, which promote and monitor the use of flag vessels and the movement of cargo across international waters. The department is composed of 3 sections: agricultural cargoes, civilian agencies, and military cargoes. Also, another aspect of MARAD is its role in ship disposal. The Maritime Administration's goal is to remove all ships that present the highest risk to the environment and to have disposal alternatives and the necessary funding in place to ensure that obsolete vessels can be disposed of. In 2001, Congress passed the Floyd D. Spence National Defense Authorization Act, which authorized the Maritime Administration to appropriate funds for the procurement of ship dismantling and recycling service. MARAD has 4 main methods of disposing these vessels: domestic recycling, artificial reefing, ship donations, and SINKEX. Domestic recycling refers to the offering of contracts to multiple domestic recycling companies who then go out and dispose of the ships themselves. Artificial reefing refers to the acceptance of applications from other coastal states, U.S. territories, foreign governments, and they basically use these obsolete ships, sink them, and use them in offshore reefs for the conservation of marine life. MARAD also does ship donations to other countries and different foundations. And then we also have SINKEX, which is a program which the Navy and Maritime have joint disposal operations, where they take ships from around the country, other territories, and dispose of them jointly. Now, MARAD shipping directly correlates with global logistics because the regulations first made by the department through global and U.S. shipping, and also because of its control of the cargo fleets and strategic sea lift, which provides a lot of aid and relief during times of emergency.
The port vessel operations is broken down into three major parts. The first is the port and terminal infrastructure development, the second is port conveyance, and the third is deep water port licensing. To start off, infrastructure development. The ultimate goal in regards of MARAD, in terms of their port and vessel operations, is to expand the harbors as much as possible while growing economically and to increase efficiency within their goods and services. Next, we're going to talk about the port conveyance. The overall mission of the port conveyance is to convey excess federal property for port development, port expansion, and operation of port facilities. MARAD states that the Federal Property Administration Services Act of 1949, as amended, provides for disposal of excess real property to other executive agencies that have a need for the property, or if there is no such need for disposal as surplus property. To touch a little bit about deep water ports licensing, the goal of the Deep Water Ports program is to reduce the need for liquefied natural gases, LNG, and oil tankers to transit busy seaports, while maintaining a high level of security and providing an environmentally friendly fuel source. Lastly, the port and vessel operations is important within business logistics because it works with the National Defense Reserve Fleet and also ship disposals.
The Office of Maritime Security is responsible for the development and implementation of security policies, procedures, practices, statutes, and training to protect U.S. citizens and maritime interests, specifically protecting from security threats such as piracy, terrorism, criminal activity, and cyber attack. Maritime Security also works with the Department of Transportation within the maritime operational threat response process, as well as assisting on issues involving global maritime transportation systems. Maritime security works to protect goods that travel on the seas, security of posts and access to the seas, and the overall protection of marine resources. The threat of piracy has been on the International Maritime Organization's agenda since 1982 at the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, in which the IMO determined what piracy is actually made up of. Basically, any illegal acts of violence or detention committed for private ends by the crew or the passenger of a private ship or private aircraft, or any act of voluntary participation in the operation of a ship or an aircraft with knowledge of facts making it a pirate ship or aircraft. The new national strategy for maritime security places all the federal maritime programs together in a national effort involving the appropriate federal, state, local, or private sector entities. And with this, they developed 8 security plans to prepare for various threats, which will often be updated. Moreover, with the Office of Security, the United States government introduced 2 new ways to communicate with U.S. maritime industries and U.S. mariners on identifying threats in the maritime domain. First being the U.S. Maritime Alert, which was basically developed to share the time, location, and confirmation of threat events that happen in the United States and what they're interested in. Second is the U.S. Maritime Advisory, which is basically just a more detailed look than the Maritime Alert and will give off special warnings when necessary. The Office of Maritime Security works with some of the most important federal departments, first being the U.S. Department of State Transportation Affairs. Basically is there to ensure that all Americans and American goods and services are moving safely and securely through the global marketplace. Next would be the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Coast Guard Office of Commercial Vessel Compliance, in which are basically there for marine safety and which all suspicious activities and events are to be reported directly to them. Lastly, the U.S. Department of Defense National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, in which the office basically collects, evaluates, and compiles worldwide marine navigation products and databases. It's also a key element to the communication aspects with transmitting U.S. maritime alerts and advisories.
Another essential branch of the U.S. Maritime Administration is the Office of Environment, which reports directly to the Associate Administrator for Environment and Compliance. The primary objectives of the Office of Environment are to support and enforce environmental legislation, provide research and development assistance for emerging marine transportation and environmental developers, and provide advice related to domestic and international regulations to the United Nations International Maritime Organization. One of the main objectives of the Office of Environment is to support and enforce environmental legislation. For example, in 1969, the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, was one of the first laws written that established a broad national framework for protecting the environment. Simply, NEPA assures that all branches of the government consider the environment prior to undertaking any major federal action that could significantly affect the environment. The Office of Environment at MARAD is responsible for the oversight and coordination of the agency's implementation of NEPA. The agency performs NEPA analysis such as port and intermodal infrastructure projects. Executive orders such as Executive Order 13514, which is Federal Leadership in Environmental Energy Economic Performance, are carried out by the Office of Environment. Part of the executive order requires that environmental management systems, or EMS, are implemented. MARAD launched a program to develop and implement EMS systems at each of its fleet sites and operational facilities. Under the executive order, MARAD is required to establish a Strategic Sustainability Performance Plan, or SSSPP, which is annually updated and integrated. Elements that are essential to SSPP are greenhouse gas emissions, energy consumption, water consumption, fuel consumption, high-performance sustainable buildings, green procurement, electronic stewardship. The Office of Environment also works towards reducing the agency's carbon footprint and energy use, and move in the direction of renewable energy overall. This effort includes energy audits of ships and facilities, the purchase and installation of solar panels, installation of geothermal heating systems, and consideration of power purchase agreements. For example, in 2011, the Cape Orlando completed all energy conservation measures and resulted in a minimum of 30% energy savings. MARAD partakes in annual updates to measure changes in its environmental footprint and reevaluate cost-saving opportunities. The U.S. Maritime Administration also aids in research and development for emerging marine technology. The Maritime Environmental and Technical Assistance Program, or META, promotes the research, demonstration, and development of technologies and processes that improve maritime industry environmental sustainability. Some of the primary focuses of the program have been control of aquatic invasive species transported by vessels, and reduction in vessel and port air emissions. Through the META program, MARAD partners with federal, state, local agencies, the maritime industry, and academia to develop and carry out research and development projects. Some META projects have grown to multi-state and multi-agency cooperative efforts. For example, MARAD is testing state-of-the-art environmentally efficient fuel cell technology on board the training ship Kennedy. This research initiative evaluates the performance of a new fuel cell technology to power shipboard electrical systems. The result of this technology will be the reduction of harmful air emissions by using an alternative source of power. Some other areas of research aided by MARAD are water treatment technology, alternative biofuels, emission reduction technology, liquefied natural gas, and hybrid batteries. In the past, MARAD has partnered with universities such as University of Delaware and Rochester Institute of Technology for new research and development expenditures. The Office of Environment aids in supporting international environmental standards and regulations. The International Maritime Organization, or IMO, is the United Nations specialized agency with responsibility for safety and security of shipping and prevention of shipping marine pollution. The Office of Environment staff serve as technical experts to the U.S. delegation to the IMO Marine Environment Protection Committee. MARAD serves as experts in 5 significant areas: ballast water management, air emissions, climate change, ship recycling, Arctic transportation, and ship radiated noise. In each of these areas, office staff provide the Department of State, the U.S. Coast Guard, and other federal agencies with expert knowledge of commercial maritime transportation practices. The Office of Environment also undertakes efforts within the International Organization of Standardizations, or ISO, to develop technical industry standards and guidelines to further the development and deployment of technologies and practices to reduce environmental impacts of marine transportation operations. The Office of Environment relates to business logistics in many ways. First, new standards, regulations, and legislation for shipping and maritime and transportation is important to any firm because there are government rules which they must follow. New environmental standards and regulations may change the operating flow of a firm, increase or decrease operating costs, or change working environments in order to satisfy new or existing requirements.
The Office of Safety for the Maritime Administration is responsible to develop, coordinate, and oversee agency matters regarding the industry safety and safety compliance of waterborne transportation. This involves the overall safety of merchant marines. This office is also responsible to ensure a national transportation system that is safe, secure, and even environmentally friendly. There are important aspects of the Office of Safety, including their standards and regulations, vessel design and operations, marine engineering, and safety materials and resources. There are challenges the office faces in the maritime community when it comes to standards and regulations. The Maritime Administration coordinates with other federal agencies, such as the U.S. Coast Guard, to help face challenges together. The office staff participates in many organizations, including the International Organization for Standardization, which tries to make the industry more efficient and effective, and the American Society for Testing and Materials International, which develops technical standards for materials, products, systems, and services. Some other organizations the office staff participates in are the International Maritime Organization Maritime Safety Committee and the Maritime Advisory Committee on Occupational Safety and Health. These organizations focus more on the regulatory framework for shipping and the matters relating to the maritime industry. Vessel design and operations need to be maintained by the Office of Safety. In order to do so, they need to collaborate with government or private sector groups to develop the best practices in relation to safety in areas such as vessel stability and structural soundness, engineering safety and maintenance, ship recycling, operational human factors, navigational safety, and shipyard and maritime terminal safety. The office staff participates and contributes to many different organizations to make sure there are safer ships, attention to merchant mariner medical issues, awareness of transportation, and understanding of Arctic and global warming activities. These organizations include the Ship Structure Committee, the Ship Operations Cooperative Program, the USCG Safety Advisory Committee, the Human Factors Coordinating Committee, the National Science Foundation, the Society of Naval Architects, and Marine Engineers, and the International Maritime Organization Flag State Implementation Casualty Working Group. Marine engineering includes the naval architectural and marine engineering studies and projects that are supported by the Office of Safety. The groups and industry committees for this include the American Society of Naval Engineers calendar of events, the International Maritime Organization's conferences and meetings, the Society of Naval Architects and Marine Engineers events, the Transportation Research Board's conferences and workshops, and the International Organization for Standardization's events. Lastly, for the Office of Safety, there are safety materials and resources. These materials include guidelines for prevention of distracted operators, separation planning checklists, and mariner records checklists, all provided by the Ship Operations Cooperative Program resources. An example of one of the types of information on these materials is a checklist of family records on the Mariner Records Checklist that provides vital information such as if wills and funeral plan documents should be at home in a safe or in a safe deposit box. There are also property records and legal records on this form to ensure the safety of mariners. The guidelines implemented by the Office of Safety allow logistical firms to follow safe practices in regards to shipping and vessel management.
In conclusion, I would like to summarize what MARAD is and what it does. MARAD separates tasks to specific offices: Offices of Environment, Office of Safety, Office of Security, Shipping and Shipbuilding, and Port and Vessel Operations. Each office works to achieve the most important objectives, ensures efficient logistics, and enforces and promotes proper international and domestic maritime operations and regulations. It allows private firms to carry out logistic needs, and firms across the globe are more easily able to import and export goods internationally and domestically. It provides essential security to firms, which allow safe transportation across the sea by protecting it against threats such as pirates or international affairs. Environmental regulations and research allows firms to operate safely and ensure employees and inhabitants are safe from dangerous materials. All of MARAD's branches work as a team to accomplish all tasks, which result in the safest and effective operation while allowing firms' logistical needs to be satisfied and ultimately benefit the customer. Team 3 would like to thank you for listening and watching and hope that you enjoyed and learned valuable resources about maritime administration. Thank you.